This conference will now be recorded.
Hi, I'm Dr. Annette Cargioli, and I am here today with Yelena and her daughter, her 14-month-old daughter, Zoya, who is adorable. And we're going to demonstrate how EPT works even with a tiny little child like this. And I mean, she's adorable. I'm very excited to do some EPT remotely. So when I have kids in my office personally, mom will still be in there and she holds the child and we work with the child as much as we can. So her mom will do some of the magnet stuff with her. The other thing I want to bring up that I always bring up is I have a sound therapy unit on me because doing remote work takes a toll on you energy healers, and you need to know that. So just keep that in mind. Energy work does take a toll when you're doing long distance work. It's a little bit more strain on your own energy system than when you're in person with somebody. So EPT is a completely different approach, and that's why it works with kids and adults, because it's based on the science of forgiveness. And since Zoya isn't going to be able to say all the forgiveness statements, we're going to have her mom say them, and we'll have her mom use the magnets on Zoya, and we'll walk through it. So we're going to go ahead and get started so we don't lose Zoya's attention too quickly. So Zoya, you are an amazing little girl. We're going to start with what stage of healing Zoya is in. So Zoya is in the stage 2, which is anger, which means that she might be a little more frustrated. She may be less obedient, and a lot of people can say, well, she's moving into those terrible 2s, but you know what? That's still an emotional state you can alter. And depending on what a little child has been through, so Zoya's mom and dad have been separated, right?
Yes.
So she's already gone through the trauma of separation. So, and I know that you just moved away from her grandmother back to New York, right?
Yes.
So, yeah, so you just moved away. So she got moved from Ohio back to New York City. So
Mm-hmm.
that can also, even though people think, oh, my kid's fine, it shows up a lot when I have an adult and I'll say, let's see, this is when you were 2 years old and it's your anger with your mom and you know what was happening. And the person will say, well, we moved. And you kind of go, wow, okay, so moving is actually fairly emotionally impactful for people, even when they're tiny, because
Mm-hmm.
it's your environment.
And
So
it's
we're
a
going to
completely
start.
different environment now. She was surrounded
Yes,
by my sister, kids, grandma, and now it's just two of us.
right. So what
Yeah.
we're hopefully going to do is we're going to do EPT with Zoya so that her energy system doesn't get stuck in the unresolved conflicts of the move, the separation of mom and dad, the introduction of dad back into her life. All of these things are kind of happening for her right now in a
Yeah.
totally different environment. So, all right, so she's age 2, or not age 2, stage 2 and anger. So how many issues? 1, 2, 3 issues. So the first issue, we'll see if we can do it in less than 3, but she tests her. There's 3 things going on with her right now. So the first thing is family, current, self, grief. Her grief. So it's Zoya's grief. And so I'm looking for the statement that both mostly or most accurately represents the emotional conflict that she has not resolved in her mind and her body and her spirit. So Zoya's grief with herself, and I'm going to ask for a time frame, which is awesome because she's only 14 months old. We don't have a whole lot of months there.
Mm-hmm.
So Zoya's grief with herself, with someone else, no. And I'm muscle testing for those of you who are wondering. The difference in muscle testing when you're doing remote is I have to muscle test my own finger. When I'm with a person in person, I would be muscle testing Zoya's mother's arm because Zoya isn't going to hold her arm up for me. All right, her grief with herself, conception of birth, birth by, yeah, wait, conception of, or grief with herself, conception of birth, birth, yeah, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 months old. So what was happening when she was 6 months?
Oh, what was happening when she was? It got really bad between her dad and I, really really bad, and um I believe at around, I think we fully separated at the time. It was obvious
Okay,
that it was done.
so there was difficulty between her parents, right? Is that right?
Yes, it was. It was.
I'm gonna
It was. I think our conflict reached the peak at around that time.
Okay, between parents. So I'm gonna write peak of conflict. I kind of went really fast here. Peak of conflict.
It was. It was.
Um,
It was obvious at that point that it was not. No matter what is done, it's just not working out anymore.
right, right. Okay, so what I need you. We're gonna do a little. It's okay, baby girl. So what we're gonna have you do is Zoya. I need you to put magnets, the blue side of the magnets on either side of her head. So you're gonna hold it on her head, blue. If you
Okay.
can get, yeah. So you're gonna put it on either side of her head, and then we're just gonna have you squeeze her head together, and we'll breathe, and you'll breathe because we're probably not gonna get her to breathe on cue.
Okay. I am.
It'll be good.
I'm gonna find
And
a
if you
way.
need, if you need to chase her down to do it, that's okay. Or you go, come
Yeah.
here, I gotta grab your head. And then you grab her head and you're gonna do squeeze and breathe in, and breathe out. And you're gonna do the breathing. Breathe in,
Okay.
breathe out.
What I'm doing is I'm changing the angle, so I
Okay.
can actually do this.
We've got her having her little nap time. She's getting ready.
Getting ready.
Perfect time. Okay,
So
so you're
blue
gonna put the
side.
blue
Uh-huh.
against her head on either side, and then you squeeze her head gently. Breathe in. Good job, Zoya. Breathe out. And breathe in. Do it again. Breathe out. And then gently squeeze. Breathe in. Breathe out. I have one more you need to do. You're going to do, Zoya, you little snot. Okay, you're going to lift on the front of her head. It's
Sorry.
okay. You know what? Let her go. Right. She's okay. All right. Are you still there? Without the
Yeah.
magnet, listen, Elena, I wrestled with 5 kids. So I completely, this is not blowing my cool or doing anything. It's just a little person. All right.
Okay.
So I need you to go on the front of her head and the back of her head and lift up and breathe. So
Okay.
you don't have to, you can put the magnets on. Yeah. Breathe in and lift and breathe out and breathe in and breathe out. I like the way she's like, don't grab my head. Breathe in, breathe out. Okay. All right. Perfect. Good job, Zoya. And good job, Elena. Okay. I
Thank
just
you.
wanted to get that. That's the rapport that we do on everybody, even little ones. So, so the first issue is Zoya's grief with herself, and it's her difficulty between her parents. Her grief with herself because we have to come up with a because. Because did you move away or were you together with him?
He pretty much stopped seeing her at that point. He
So
was
he was
very,
gone.
yeah, he was very in and out, like very rarely seeing her at the time.
All right. So
She
Zoya's grief with
also went
herself
to she went to daycare at 7 months. I just
okay.
remembered.
That could be it. Yep. So is it the difficulty between parents, like parents' conflict is a big deal to her, her grief? She has grief, but also because, so the difficulty works and the separation too, because so the conflict between the parents was an issue along with being separated. So she couldn't keep an eye on you kind of thing. I don't know what's going to happen if I'm not here and they're having a conflict.
Hmm.
And let's see, daycare. I'm going to write that daycare.
The daycare
All
happened
right.
at 7 months.
Okay, but I'm thinking it's all right there in the same window.
Hmm.
So we're going to go ahead and go for that. So, all right. So I need you to put, let's see, grief. All right. So put All right, Zoya, you're getting magnets again. Okay, you're going to put a magnet right there on her upper shoulder, sort of, with red against her.
On which side? Right or left?
Red, it doesn't matter, either side. Okay. So you can put it on this one or this one. And you're going to hold that, and then you're going to have to take the red and put it over her forehead. I know, look at her. You can do it, Zoya, you can. And then breathe in, breathe out. And this is 6 months. Breathe in, breathe out. Oh, breathe in, breathe out. Oh my goodness, she's so sleepy. Yeah. And that's good. Okay. Zoya. Okay. You got it? You got your camera back. This is an exciting video, isn't it? With a little toddler. All right. So are there any other emotions? No. So this is conveniently Zoya's grief that she kind of locked into her system at 6 months old, and she's demonstrating it to us as she cries, and she's upset. So, and it's her little heart. So we're gonna do this. If you can rub on her, on like right under, your collarbone is right here. If you can like just put your hands and gently rub right there on her chest while I'm going to tell you to say the statements, okay? Perfect. You got it. And then look at her. Oh my goodness. Ah. All right. So I need you to say, I, Zoya.
I, Zoya.
Forgive myself.
Forgive myself.
For believing.
For believing.
That I can't love myself.
That I can't love myself.
Or feel good about myself.
Or feel good about myself.
Without feeling grief.
Without feeling grief.
Because when I was 6 months old.
Because when I was 6 months old.
My parents were fighting.
My parents were fighting.
It was difficult in my house.
It was difficult in my house.
And then they took me away.
And then they took me away.
And then breathe. Oh, that feels good. I, Zoya.
I, Zoya.
Forgive my parents.
Forgive my parents.
For having hard conflicts.
For having hard conflicts.
When I didn't understand.
When I didn't understand.
And then taking me away.
And then taking me away.
And then breathe. I like the way she's checking you out. I, Zoya.
I, Zoya.
Forgive myself for believing.
Forgive myself for believing.
That I have to have grief.
That I have to have grief.
So that this never happens again.
So this never happens again.
And then breathe. I, Zoya.
I, Zoya.
Forgive myself for believing.
Forgive myself for believing.
That there was something I could have done to stop all that conflict.
That there was something that I could have done to stop all this conflict.
And then breathe. Yeah. I, Zoya.
I, Zoya.
Give myself permission.
Give myself permission.
To accept. To accept.
To accept.
That it wasn't my fault.
That it wasn't my fault.
There was nothing I did.
There was nothing I did.
That made them take me away.
That made them take me away.
And then breathe. Oh, look at my girl. Oh my goodness. Okay, Zoya. Okay, baby, you're doing good. All right. I, Zoya. Okay, I, Zoya.
I, Zoya,
Give myself permission
give myself a permission
to say yes. To
to
say
say
yes
yes
to all this grief. To all this grief.
I'm sorry, I
Yes.
couldn't hear you.
I say yes.
I
I
say
say
yes
yes to all this grief
to all this grief
and sadness.
and sadness
And I call it up.
and the conflict.
I call it up.
I couldn't
And
hear the
I
last
release.
one.
Okay. I call it up.
Is it okay if I take a minute to calm her down?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I would love that.
Okay.
Yes. That would be
I'll be back in just a second.
great. Okay. That's perfect. She's just kind of having a little bit of a relief here. And it just so happens that it's also her nap time. So that wouldn't be unusual. She just needs a little bit of time. And I don't have any doubt that all of that is kind of moving through her. I see that quite often where there's a baby fine and we start to do these statements and they get upset or they get emotional and then we work through it and they do pretty good. They're all happy. So it's okay. All right. Okay, Zoya. So I say yes
I say yes
to all this grief
to all this grief
and sadness
inside
and sadness and sadness
and the sadness
and I release it.
and
Oh, look at that. I release it.
I release
I
it
release from my body,
from my body,
my mind,
my mind,
and my spirit.
and my spirit.
And then breathe really deep. I don't know if any of you caught it. She had a little yawn in there in her scream. It was kind of sweet, which tells me she's releasing. Yeah. All right. So we're going to go back to stage of healing. Yeah, stage of healing. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's another issue. So now we got from stage 2, which is anger, to stage 4, which is depression. So I'm going to go there and do another issue, stage 4, depression. All right. So she moved from anger to bargain to depression. So that's where people get stuck, even little babies. And so we're going to say one issue, money, love, family, current, self. And she keeps doing this about herself, which is kind of interesting. Grief. And it's, is it mom's grief, dad's grief, Zoya's grief? Zoya's grief, and I'm going to find out when. So she's got a lot of unreleased grief that she's probably she's trying to let it out. So Zoya's grief, conception to birth, conception to birth, birth to 5, birth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months. 8 months. So what was happening? That would have been a couple months. So 7 months she went to daycare. At 8 months she's still in daycare at 8 months.
No, at 8 months the coronavirus hit and we were stuck at home and we moved away from Philadelphia and she was fully separated from her dad. And I had the hardest time of my life at the time.
Oh, so that was really hard for you, but she was with you.
Yes.
You two were together a lot.
all the time, and
So
it was terrible. We were just locked in the apartment the entire time. We couldn't go out because coronavirus. It just started, so nobody knew what was going on. The school shut down,
yeah,
and we were just stuck at home, fighting with her dad, and eventually just took off. It was exceptionally hard. It was
was
like high
was
point of
he
like deceiving.
was he there?
No,
Was he in the same apartment? No,
no.
but you were fighting with him.
Yeah, he was disappearing and refusing to help us to figure out the situation or like what to do next. It was
Wow.
just a very bad abandonment on his end. He just abandoned us exactly at that
Right.
time.
So she would have been depressed. I'm thinking Zoya's grief at 8 months, and it's not mom's, it's her grief because it's because of mom. Is it because of dad? No, it's because of mom. So she's feeling she feels grief, I think, because she can't help you. Is that, yeah, that's it. So she somehow is in the system, the family system, and she realizes you need help really bad, and she feels really sad or grief because I can't help her. So when I
Mhm.
ask her, if I ask, is she has grief because she can't leave the apartment? No, she has grief. It's because she can't help mom. So
Mhm.
mom needs help and I can't help her. Mom needs help.
And that's
So
exactly what I
she's,
needed at the time is help. The most important thing was help. I am
well,
gonna
and I
go get
think,
her, and I'll be back in just
yeah,
a second.
that's okay. I think she was just sensing, the stress and the distress of what Yelena had going on at the time. Mom needs help. I can't help her. But it's also distressful for a child when they sense their mother is distressed. So she's sensing her mother's distress and it's making her feel really sad at age 8 months. I can't help. Right. So she's feeling helpless and grief because mother is very distressed and it's all day long in the lockdown.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we're going to do, let's see, distress, it's grief, Zoya, and grief. Okay, so this time it's going to be the blue magnet against her shoulder and the other one in front of her forehead, blue and blue. So blue against,
Uh-huh. A forehead and
yeah, and yeah, you can just hold them there if you want. Okay, and then breathe in. Just breathe in, breathe in, and breathe out, and breathe in, and breathe out. Perfect. Okay, you can put the magnets down. Okay, Zoya, you're doing good. You're doing good. All right, any other emotions? No. So this is Zoya's grief. No surprise, she seems to have a lot of grief just while we're doing this. Okay, phase one, phase two, and she has, her heart is what gets really panicky. That's where she's holding a lot of this emotion. So this would be the collarbone points that you would hold on her or rub like you did before. So you could put one hand on her back where you're just kind of supporting her. And you don't have to, yeah. Oh my goodness. Oh, wow. You've got a lot going on. All right. I need you to say, yeah, Zoya. So, okay, again, I want to tell people who are watching this, this is not unusual for a toddler who's got some stuff that's not releasing, that they come in and it's like they're really pretty happy and you start to do the statements and you start to push touch points and they just kind of go a little ballistic. So it's not unusual, it's not a bad thing.
mhm.
So I need you to say, and if you can't rub her points, you can rub yours
Okay.
if it allows her to be more at peace.
I
So I
think
need
so. I
you
think
to
it's
say, I, Zoya,
I, Zoya,
forgive myself for believing
forgive myself for believing
that I had to feel grief
that I had to feel grief
at 8 months old
at 8 months old
Because my mom needed help and I couldn't help her.
Because my mom needed help and I couldn't help her.
And my mother was in distress.
My mom was in stress.
And she was the only one I could depend on.
And she was the only one I could depend on.
And then breathe. I, Zoya, forgive myself for believing.
I, Zoya, forgive myself for believing.
If my mom remains in distress,
That my mom remained in distress.
then they're going to take me away again.
Then they're going to take me away again.
And then breathe. I, Zoya, forgive myself for believing.
I, Zoya, forgive myself for believing.
That I have to feel grief as long as my mother is distressed.
Forgive myself that I have to feel grief as long as my mom is distressed.
And then breathe. I'm going to say, I, Elena,
I, Elena,
forgive myself
forgive myself
for, holding all the stress,
for holding all the stress,
for being locked down,
for being locked down,
and needing help,
and needing help,
and being in conflict,
and being in conflict,
and fearing for our future.
and fearing for our future.
And then breathe. Yeah. I, Elena,
I, Elena,
forgive myself for believing
forgive myself for believing
that I have to continually fear for my future and Zoya's future.
that I have to continue living fear for my
My
future,
future
my future and
and
Zoya's
Zoya,
future
because of the lockdown
because of the lockdown
and the unexpected rejection for
and
help.
the unexpected rejection for help.
And then breathe. I, Elena,
I, Elena,
forgive myself for believing
forgive myself for believing
that Zoya's father has to give me some help
that Zoya's father has to give me some help
before I can let go
before I can let go
of the distress
of the distress
of the lockdown and the unexpected circumstances.
because of the lockdown and unexpected circumstances.
And then breathe. Oh, that feels better. I, Elena,
I, Elena,
say yes
say yes
to to the distress
say yes to the distress
and the fear of our future.
and the fear of our future.
And I call it up
And I call it up
and I release it.
and I release.
Oh, we lost her. Okay. Oh, well, we'll wait. She'll be back. That can happen too, even without a toddler. Somebody can hit the camera or hit the computer and it all goes away. But, I'm going to say this as well. The reason I jumped in and started working with Yelena is because Zoya at 8 months old was responding to the emotional distress of her mother, fearing for their future, wondering what was going to happen. So her mother was in a state of emotional distress, and the baby, Zoya, was aware, the person that I rely on is now falling apart. So what's going to happen to me? So children and infants are definitely cued into the feelings and the distress that we go through, even when they're older. They know and they respond to it actually in their brain and in their body. And so I was walking through these statements with Yelena. I'm hoping she pops back on. I was walking through these statements with Yelena because she, in some way, is still, when she's in that apartment with the baby, she's still in that, a little bit in that state of uh, fear of the future and grief and depression over, I don't know what's going to happen. So even though it's not like it was, her body hasn't completely gone back to where it needs to be. So that's what's going on there. So that's why I jumped right in there for those of you who are wondering, no, wait a minute, you're now doing statements with mama. They're so intertwined. Babies and moms, children and moms are very intertwined, especially at that younger age. So it doesn't mean that dad, that dad isn't an issue. It just means that when you're younger, mom is the one that the baby identifies with because mom is the holder of the food. Mom is the one that just does most of the care in general. So anyway, I'm just going to wait here until she shows up. I'm hoping that she gets her computer all fixed again. I love that as she started doing statements, Zoya actually started to calm down a little bit. So I'm gonna say, let's see, I'll just go back and say stage of healing for Zoya. Oh, well, that's pretty good. We move Zoya to stage of healing 6, which is light emerging. So I keep expecting her to jump back on here. I don't know, Linda might be trying to get a hold of her on the phone. I just want to, we've covered a lot of territory with Zoya, and I feel like, and now we've gone from her being in anger to her being in the stuck place of depression. And then a lot of that stuck place for Zoya was really wrapped up in some of her mother's trauma of what they went through together, and Zoya holding until mom changes, I can't let this go. So what we did was we helped release it on Yelena so that Zoya then doesn't have to be in that posture of, uh-oh, something's wrong with my mom and what am I going to do? What's going to happen to me? So we got her to light emerging through our testing. And I keep thinking Linda's going to run back here and tell me what's going on. I noticed that we have Patty. I'm talking to people because this will be posted on a Facebook page. So I'm not sure. Let's see here. I'm going to go. If Patty, yeah. So hi, Patty. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Annette. How are
What?
you?
Oh, Patty. It's a Patty I know.
It's a Patty you know. You're two of the only two I know, so.
Oh my gosh. I thought that's either Patty from Chicago or it's some Patty I don't know.
Yep, it's Chicago Patty. How are you?
Wow. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to hear all of this again. It's been a while with all this craziness going on.
Yeah. And,
I need to
and this
reconnect.
one's a really crazy, I think this one's a crazy fun one because I love working with kids anyway and little babies. It's like
Mhm.
fantastic. What I think I'm
Yes.
going to do is I'm going to try to get, I'm going to schedule Yelena probably to come back on maybe next week, and we'll just kind of go, for a brief kind of size it up kind of thing.
Yep.
Find out how Zoya did, how she did, if she noticed anything different, and then just check Zoya real quick. We got Zoya to light emerging, and I would say that it's probably because that place where Zoya got stuck was related to where mom's locked down trauma was making it difficult. Oh, there's Yelena now. Yay. All right, Yelena, I need your microphone.
Yep. Sorry about this. I had
What
technical
happened?
difficulties.
Did Zoya just take over?
Yeah, Zoe's taken over.
Well, you know what? I actually muscle tested and I got that after you did those statements, Zoya went from depression to light emerging, which is stage 6 of healing, which is amazing. So your release of your own trauma from the lockdown really gave her permission to stop holding all that. Uh-oh, I'm afraid because mom still isn't right.
Yeah.
So that really helped that. I want to do a few more statements with you. And then the other thing I was going to recommend is that we might I might be able to just add you next week on a little brief call to just follow up just for Zoya to see if she's, how she's doing.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Dr. Annette, I just never knew that it was so hard, the times that you picked out, and I just didn't know how much it affected her.
Right, right. And I mean, I was saying while you were getting your camera ready, I'll just repeat it again. Zoya was holding grief in response to trauma that you were holding in. That's why I switched and had you say the statements so that Zoya isn't going, okay, I have to wait till she's okay before I can let go of this grief.
Yes.
So if I had to tell you what you could say to Zoya is, you know what, I'm okay. You can let go of all the grief. It's okay now. That's what I would, say. I let it all go. I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna be fine. But when you say I'm gonna be fine, you have to really mean it. Like you can't be distressed and go, I'm gonna be fine, I'm gonna be fine. You have to be in that place where you go, yeah, I'm gonna be fine. It's not like it was in the lockdown. It's a lot better. All right, so I got Zoya to light emerging, and then I need you to rub these points, and we're gonna do a few more statements. So I need you to say, without this pattern.
Without this pattern.
I, Zoya.
I, Zoya.
Am free.
Am free.
To let go of my grief.
To let go of my grief.
And to accept.
And to accept.
My mom is gonna be fine.
My mom is gonna be fine.
She has all the help she needs.
She has all the help she needs.
And she's gonna be okay.
And she's gonna be okay.
Just like me.
Just like me.
And then breathe. Wow. And one more. Without this pattern.
Without this pattern.
I, Yelena.
I, Yelena.
Am free to release.
Am free to release.
All of the fear and depression and grief.
All of the fear, depression, and grief.
And trauma.
And trauma.
From the lockdown.
From the lockdown.
And my fear my fear of my future with Zoya.
And the fear of my future with Zoya.
And then breathe. Yeah. Without this pattern, I'm going to do another one. Without this pattern.
Without this pattern.
I, Yelena.
I'm sorry. I, Yelena.
Am free.
Am free.
To accept.
To accept.
All the good.
All the good.
That Zoya and I.
That Zoya and I.
Also have in our future.
Also have in our future.
And then breathe. Without this grief and fear.
Without this grief and fear.
I am free to open my heart.
I am free to open my heart.
To all of the unknown good.
To all of the unknown good.
that is existing right now
that is existing right now
in my life
in my life
and my future.
and my future.
And then breathe. Wow, that's so good. Okay, so let's see, stage of healing, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so she's in 6, and with you, you're 6. So for the lockdown trauma and all that, it's a 6. Yes. So
Yay!
it should be really, really good. I'm going to take a guess that I could, I don't know, I'm thinking next week, maybe on a, I want to say Wednesday, I have somebody scheduled, but I'm thinking I would just, it won't take but a few minutes to check in with you. So I'm thinking maybe on Wednesday at 2:30.
Sure, we'll be there.
Okay, I'm gonna write it. I'm gonna write it down. Wednesday 2:30, and I'll record it, and then I'll just add it to that little thread so people see. All
Okay.
right, that was great, and she sounds like she's a lot she's more calmed down.
Yeah,
She's happy.
she's happy. She's
That's
just sitting there playing.
That's usually what happens. They get a little crazy, and you think I didn't do anything. And then they just, by the time all that energy shifts, they just calm down and they act like they never acted that way.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's so interesting. She's such a happy baby and like energetic and happy. But when she cries so deeply. It's like a very bitter cry with her. Like, and so like it always made me feel bad. Not what you saw today. Right now it's whining, but when she really cries, it's almost impossible to tolerate.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And
there's like pain in there.
Right. And I'm thinking one of the things you can do with her is just rub on those points when she's crying and hold her back and just kind of rub and and even you can rub those same points in the back, on the back at the rib. So that's a way of helping it kind of release out too.
I'm sorry. So the points in the back, and what was the other one?
Oh, you can do it at the collarbone in the front,
Okay.
or you can do it right in the back as though you're doing it on the collarbone. If you're holding her and you want to rub those 2 points, it's the same thing. It's a fear release point, and look at that. I love it. I love her hair.
Thank you. She's a
Bye,
curly.
Dana. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. We'll see you next Wednesday.
All right, we'll talk next Wednesday.
Sounds great. Bye.